Hey guys, and welcome back to Crash Bandicoot, The Wrath of Cortex. In the last episode, we sealed up Lolo, and, well, that means that all the elementals are now imprisoned again, but somehow we still have another 10 levels left to do. So, I don't know how that works, but yeah, we've got another whole entire warp chamber here. We have Crash and Burn, we have Gold Rush, we have Medieval Madness, we have Crate Balls of Fire, and we have Cortex Vortex, with the weirdest looking V I've ever seen. So we're going to go into Gold Rush first, and, well, there's so many boxes left in this level.
Well, here we are again. I wouldn't necessarily call this irony, but don't you find it a little odd that we keep meeting under these same world domination circumstances? Why not just give up? And let me win for once!
Don't worry, Dr. Cortex. Now that my elemental powers have reached maximum capacity, this little geek is gonna wish he was never created.
Yeah, so Gold Rush. 209 boxes in this level, the most out of any Crash game up to this point, and for many years after that, until we got It's About Time, where some of the levels could contain over 500 boxes. Why? I'll tell you why, because they wanted to add on a bit more to a level and then have you repeat the level that you'd already done. Alright, but Gold Rush, this is quite a long level. This is probably the hardest Platinum Relic to get in the game, solely just because it's kind of difficult to actually get through this level in one life. The actual target time isn't so much the issue. And look, we have these bird things. Remember them from Crash 2? They're not as mechanicalized anymore. They're just birds again. They look like flamingos to me. I think they're supposed to be vultures, but they look like flamingos. You have these donkeys with massive teeth that are trying to kick you. And it has some letters written on the side. I always just think that said BBC as a kid. I don't know why. This is the BBC Donkey Channel. And we have these cactus, which can inflate themselves somehow. I don't know how a plant is able to inflate itself, but it can. Maybe it's just absorbing a lot of water. Wait, how is it doing that? The rest of the cactus are in 2D. Well, those big ones aren't. They're 3D models. But yeah, there are a lot of boxes to break here. There's also a death route here. There's also scorpions here, and they are... I can't remember if we had scorpions to Crash through or not. I think the Arabian levels had scorpions, didn't they? I'm sure they did. These scorpions have really big tails. They are going to be a highly venomous species. I don't know what scorpion is that coloration, if one exists, but they are clearly a highly venomous species. And I just landed right on the nitro crate. Are these long trails of TNT necessary? Yeah, we actually have another left-going bonus level. Avalanche wasn't the only one. It's one of two. That one has it as well. But even Crash has had enough. Right, but let's go. So Gold Rush is the only time we ever get this sort of appearance of a level. Whatever you call this. I know there was a Great Gold Rush or something somewhere in America. I don't know when it was. But anyway, it's Wild West. That's what we need. That's what we really need to say. It's sort of like Wild West, I think. I can't remember if the two had a connection with each other. I don't know. My history for anything is not great. Unless it's got the word pre at the beginning, my history is not great. Prehistory, yes. History, no. Unless it's got horrible at the beginning of it as well. And this always happens. There's some weird collision detection in this area. But look, we got gold nuggets. And I don't mean the cereal. Right, you gotta keep hitting the jump button to move this thing. It does gain some speed, so be careful. And then you gotta hit the attack button and then Crash will somehow throw himself into the air. Unfortunately, I missed. And now I have to kill myself, which means that I won't be able to get to the death route, which is a shame. So we'll have to cut back to that afterwards. So let's drown. And then let's do it again. Yeah, you can see the speed this thing gets up to. Even though Crash is the only one on it. There isn't anybody helping him on the other side, but you can get some serious speed on this thing. For what it is anyway. I don't know how fast those things could really go. Right. It can be a bit difficult to judge the position of these scorpions. So be a bit careful. I would just get close to them, death tornado spin, and then you're guaranteed to hit them. And now we have these guys, which can create all of this dynamite. It just appears out of the ground and then eventually explodes. But the hitbox on the dynamite is something I never understood. Because very often I can walk into the explosion and I'll be perfectly fine. But I also seem to sometimes get hurt when the dynamite is coming out of the ground. And then other times I don't. So I don't get it. It takes a long time for me to remember that I have a fruit bazooka. You know, I was playing this immediately after getting it. It took me a long time to remember that I even had it. I always feel the need to check that. So I imagine anybody who played Crash 1 a lot, even when playing Crash 2 and onwards, they still go back to the TNT to make sure that all the crates around it exploded, because that was such a stupid thing in Crash 1. When the TNT, when you move, you could activate it, but when you moved a certain distance away from it, it would explode prematurely, and that TNT crate would count, but nothing else around it would be destroyed, even if it was other TNT. So you kind of have to make sure it was on screen when it exploded. That was so stupid. So now, who thought that was a good idea? It's like, why? How does that even go into your mind? Alright, we're approaching the end of the level now. As you can see, it is quite the lengthy one. Again, 209 boxes. There's a lot of boxes in this level. These are the last few crates, so we can go over here and grab our gem. Yeah, it's a lengthy one. But now we've got to go back into it again. Luckily, I'm going to cut to where the death route is. We don't need to see all of that again. But in a level called Gold Rush, what do we think is the color gem that we're going to get? I reckon that it is cyan. We're going to get ourselves the cyan gem. No, of course we're not. So let's jump onto this platform. Go under the bridge and it takes us to another gold mine. Filled to the brim with nitro crates. And filled to the brim with these guys. But again, they're pretty harmless. I have gotten hurt by them. I think you have to stand right in the place where the dynamite first appears. But the actual explosions, I don't think hurt you. I say don't think, so don't entirely believe me. I would avoid them just in case. If only I could do this. I can just ignore the platform entirely. There's our gold gem. We're actually going to take the exit for a change. For once I have reason to use it. Okay, so now we can obviously gain access to another coloured gem platform. But we're not going to do that just yet because this chamber actually has 2 coloured gems. It's weird. The first chamber has 2, the second has none, the third has 1, the fourth has none, and then the 5th has 2. Why we couldn't just have maybe like 1 coloured gem per chamber, I don't know. But no, now we can go into Crash and Burn and grab the other one. They're 2 levels right next to each other. Yeah, that's the only time we ever see the Wild West aesthetic, and this is the only time we're ever going to see this aesthetic. There are a few similarities to Jungle Rumble, but it's also on a massive active volcano. And I believe this was the first level that was made for the game. Or at least it was the one that was in a lot of concept and everything. Even when you're in the opening cutscene, when they first arrive at the portal chamber, you can see images that are exactly the same as the image that's showcased for the level when you're hovering next to the level's pad, whatever you call it. So I think this was one of the first levels to go into production. But it's actually one of the last levels. Why not? It's a fairly difficult one, not too bad. And once again we have a death route here. We also have a few returning enemies. Right at the beginning we saw one of those rocket-shaped piranha shark things from the water levels. It's the only time we ever see it in this level. The lizards are back. We have these kamikaze parrots. They don't actively target you. They just hover around in the air for a little bit. They slam themselves down the ground, creating a shockwave like your belly flop. And that's it. They just kill themselves. And we have these monkeys, these chimpanzee things that are carrying bananas that they will then slam into the ground. And we have these crabs that look like they want a boxing match. Right, and our next bonus platform, this one has the most gems the most boxes out of any bonus platform in the game, 44 in all. So let's just bounce along all of these. Anytime you fall into lava, it's instant death. Unfortunately though, we now have to wait for the Aku Aku to turn off, because I'm just going to go right through that otherwise. But you can't, unlike the other games where it's like you can walk on the box or stand on the box for like a second or so before it broke if you were invincible. Like that's what they want you to do in that level in Crash 1 that I could never do. The first level actually. They want you to become invincible and then you can run over those crates. Because there's a slight delay in breaking them. But that doesn't happen here. They instantly break and you cannot run along the top of them. I do really like the falling rocks in this level. Like those falling, fiery rocks. I have no idea what all this is supposed to be. As we go up it mostly just becomes a volcano with nothing else. Anyway, this place I think is, this place is screwed. This place is dying. This place is all gonna die. It's already pretty dark. There are skeletons in this place. No idea what for, no idea who's been living here, but I'm gonna assume they're all dead now. There's a skeleton in a cage. No idea what for. I want to know the origins of that. Anyway, sadly, can't use this invincibility for the most part because you're standing on this. Come on, go down. Right, this death route is kind of easy to miss, actually. It is just up there. But, trust me, that's quite well hidden. It blends in with the background, but I do like how it now has feathers on the head. Whoop. I don't know what happened there. Like it takes a bit out. The image on the death route platform does change depending on the theme of the level. Now I remember that I have a fruit bazooka. Hold the button to aim. Hold the shoulder button to aim. And then fire with circle. One thing that I always get confused about when I go back from one to the other is they switch the buttons around. And you'd think that just playing the game for this Let's Play I would remember which button it is. One is L1, one is L2. But between Crash 3 and Wrath of Cortex I can never remember which one it is. So I'm always getting confused when I'm playing the game. It's like, oh no, it's the other one. I think in this game it was L1. Yes or no, I think. The game that I was just playing a few days ago. Look, that is clearly green, but it doesn't blow it up. I don't know why. And yet, I find that this thing is... No, it's about the same as it was in Crash 3, really. It's a little bit easier to aim, and you can actually aim all around yourself here. You can actually aim backwards. Like in Crash 3, You can only aim in... I wouldn't even say it's 180 degrees. It's less than that. Like, Crash would eventually stop when you're trying to turn around. Here, he can aim all 360 degrees. Not really going to have much use for aiming behind you unless it's to activate the time trial clock, but it's a thing. Anyway, that is the only time in the game you're ever required to use your Death Tornado Spin over a pit. It's never required at any other point, and if you die, it will always make that exploding sound effect. I can't tell if it's meant to be the volcano or if it's the sound effect for the thing that it destroyed earlier in the level, but it always plays. Knowing this game, I could easily believe that it was that it's the latter. Watch out for that rolling rock. Another one will appear when the other one approaches the bottom. Look, more skeletons. And now the stairway here. Sadly, we never get to go to the top of the volcano. Right, these fiery rocks don't hurt you. The flame that's coming out of that little hole will hurt you, but the fiery rocks themselves are harmless. It is a really cool looking level though. I mean, an active volcano at night time looks amazing. In the daytime they look pretty boring, but in the night time they look amazing. And that's the thing is, lava, again, in the daytime it looks kind of gross to me. Like, it's got like this leathery sort of texture looking thing to it. The texturing just looks weird, and it's mostly black and all that. It looks kind of gross. It really does. It looks horrible. But when you see it at night time, glowing orange and all that stuff, it looks awesome. It really does. But yeah, that island is going to die. But you know, when a volcano erupts on an island, a new island is born. You know, that is a new island that will soon be home to new life. By soon, I mean in a long time in the future. But new life, a new island is growing there. So look at it that way. Anyway, we got ourselves the red gem and the gold gem now, so we can finally go back and get those last two gem platforms. This one isn't actually a platform in Compactor Reactor, and thankfully it is right at the beginning of the level. This is the closest we ever really get to the whole going back into previous levels from Crash 2 and 3, and especially Crash 1. That one was really bad with it. But this is the only two times we have to do it, because the other three gem paths are all after you've collected the coloured gem, if you've collected it. But two of them you need to backtrack to. But this one's right at the beginning of the level. Remember that sign with the golden gem on it? Well, now we have it, so we can go through here. I would recommend having at least one Aku Aku with you. There's one section about 2/3 of the way in that gets pretty tricky. Always hold down though. You're going to go slowly, but you're going to go safely. Always hold down while you're going through this. That includes while you're tilting. It's a bit tricky, but it's doable. Because otherwise you're going to go right into some of these nitro crates, especially this part right here. You see, the nitros are all pretty close to each other. Yeah, I'd recommend Aku Aku solely for that part right there. Just avoided that. And there we go. Very short, but there's a lot of nitro crates in there. It's quite easy to die in. Right, on our next one, we have to. The next one is much harder and is further into the level. So next up, we're going to make our way to Banzai Bonsai, the red gem platform. It also has something else on it as well, something more unexpected. But yeah, the other games could be pretty bad with having you go back to levels just to get on the gem pads, some of which were there solely to get another gem. Others were required to break the boxes. Dynamite, I would say it was the worst one with that. Because you would get on the yellow gem platform, and then you would have to backtrack once you finish the route to get the remaining boxes. But there are also boxes on the gem path. Crash 3 was better than Crash 2 in terms of the amount of times you have to backtrack, but only just. You still had to do it in Deep Trouble, but thankfully that one was in the 2D perspective of the scuba diving stuff, so that one wasn't too bad. But then you also had to backtrack in Future Frenzy. That was probably the worst. Along with Cold Hard Crash and Crash 2, that was the worst. Oh look, we got the Super Belly Flop. Just randomly here. Coco gets a spinning animation, but I don't think it actually increases the range. Crash does, however. But why are we unlocking this thing now? Why is it locked behind a gem path? Why not just give it to us instead of that useless tiptoe ability? I mean, the super belly flop is pretty useless in itself, but it's better. Why can't we just be given that now? I don't get it. I really don't get it. Alright, that's that one then. No more gem paths. Don't need to backtrack. Well, we still need to go back to all of the levels to do the time trials. But other than that, no more gem paths. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. Our second mech level, not counting Crashes to Ashes.
Bring it, brain-dead Bandicoot.
And also our final chase level. I don't know. Again, there's so many chase levels in this game, but at the very least you are being chased by something different every time. You know, Crash 1 had 2 boulder levels, Crash 2 also had 2 boulder levels and a polar bear. At least that one was a bit different. And then Crash 3 had the Triceratops. This game is something different every time. Which is nice. Unfortunately, it seems to be mandatory that these space levels begin with something like this. I mean, we had this in Gold Rush as well. But yeah, I don't know why the space levels always feel the need to begin with something like this. I don't know why I hesitated there. Right, it's not nearly as big as the one in Gold Rush, in a Droid Void. And now we have these circular platforms here that will turn around every now and then, so you gotta hang on to this while they're like this. Takes a while, unfortunately. They do have a sort of patterning on them, but I'm not sure what the patterning is supposed to be. Right. Try not to hit that one at the wrong angle or you're going to bounce straight down. Just bounce down. You hit it and then you bounce down. Nice. For some reason it pushed me a little bit there. Which can be an issue in one of the levels in Insane Crash 3. One of the Arabian levels, that the camera will push you off the platform. Ow, and I touched it. Whoops. What's with all the TNT surrounding this one switch box? Now, I could just go to the end right now, but I want to showcase that bazooka that I've already showcased. I have it now, I want to use it. This thing controls so much better than the mech bazooka. Because it actually works. Thankfully, we never need to use the bazooka for the mech in this level. Which I'm glad about. It's like they've realised with Droid Void. So it's like, you know what, let's not bother with that for this level. Boy, I lost quite a few lives at some point. I can't even remember where I lost them to. Obviously I died in Gold Rush, but I only died once in Gold Rush. So, I can't remember how I lost all of those lives. But anyway, I lost a few in Wuthering Heights if you think I got them back by this point. But I guess not. Not that it matters, because A, my life count is massive, and B, the next level we're going to do absolutely showers you with them. I think the only time I've ever known a Crash game to give you more lives than the next level we're going to be doing is... I can never remember which one's which. There's Castle Machinery and Heavy Machinery in Crash 1. If you have that green gem from Lost City. It just takes you to that area that's just filtering. It's got like 30 lives in it. So I love that room. And Crash 1 is one of those games that resets your lives every time you start it. Which is annoying. And sadly that level is after Slippery Climb. Watch out for him. So now we're being chased by a great big wall of fire. Yeah, I don't know where this fire is coming from, but it's here. The door does temporarily block it. I don't think fire works like that, but whatever. It's temporarily blocked. Make sure you hit that switch box yourself at the fire. I know normally the thing that's chasing you will destroy the boxes, but it doesn't activate the switch box, so you then won't be able to get those 4 crates just there. You need to hit it yourself. Jump on it, run into it, however you want to do it, just make sure you hit it yourself. You've got all of these little colourful things on the walls. I don't know what they are, but I want to know what they are. Obviously, though, the difference, if you want to get what's inside the box, which is Wumpa Fruit, or an extra life, then you are going to have to hit it yourself. Once again, it goes into like this dark filter for no reason in this section. Oh, I hate these spinning platforms right here so much. This has cost me the time trial so many times. Okay, so you're trying to rush through it, but then you're going to run off the edge, is the more likely thing that's going to happen. And if I do make it through that part, it's this part right here where I usually fail. I've died there plenty of times. And on this one. You know, you're trying not to wait, but they do become time boxes. Nitro switch crate, and there we go. No disco at the end of this one, sadly. Yeah, Crate Balls of Fire is such a better level than Droid Void. It is so much better. Both of them are annoying to get the time trial in, but other than that, Crate Balls of Fire is a level you can actually enjoy. Because you never once have to use that freaking bazooka cannon on the mech. Alright, well, next up we're heading into Medieval Madness. Probably the most difficult of the Atmosphere levels. Not the last one, we do still have one more. For a long time, this has been the level that has never really clicked with me. I've never really enjoyed going through it, and I don't know why. Again, it's the most difficult of the Atmosphere levels. There's a lot of things to avoid. It's just, there's something about it that's just never clicked with me, but I've never been able to work out what it is. I really don't know what it is. I love the music, but it's Wrath of Cortex, so of course I'm going to love the music. But there's all sorts of things here. You got this thing which tilts left and right. It's not really that big of an issue, but it tilts left and right. And I had never understood what the aesthetics of this level is. I mean, it's medieval, that much I get. It's a castle. You've even got those old-fashioned medieval tents, which we also saw in the levels from Crash 3. Combined with a few more modern-looking things here that I'm guessing Cortex has put here. But the actual castle itself is surrounded by what looks like twigs. Including the water stuff, you can still see them under the water. But it really looks like this castle has been submerged in these twigs. Like, look at this. They go high, the twig pile goes higher than the castle itself. It's like the geometry of this place doesn't make any sense. I got these things. Probably an issue. Why is there a bouncy box there? Oh no, Dingo Dial is here once again. Dingo Dial, Tiny is once again here to push me out of the way. Right, 2 paths here. Grab those 2 boxes that were just down there, and then ignore that path. It's nothing but nitro. You want to go this way, because this is where the boxes are. So now we just make our way up here. It gets a little bit narrow, but thankfully this thing obeys physics really well. I really do like the physics of this thing. If you're not one for a vibrating controller, then, well, firstly, you're a monster. And then secondly, it's going to happen constantly while this ball is rolling. As they said in that old-fashioned Star Fox 64 thing for Nintendo, you can really feel the vibration. Which, kind of weird. You take that out of context. I can never get up there just by travelling along those small little wooden things. It is possible to get to the other side, but I've only ever done it like once or twice. There's Wumpa Fruit back here, but there's no crates to break, so I don't know why there's Wumpa Fruit. Luckily this thing is here to get you up there. There are time boxes up here when you're doing the time trial. to take it this way. It's just faster than trying to get along that upper section on all those tilting platforms. Right, the closest the game ever really gets to the good old-fashioned backtracking of the original trilogy. Firstly, you don't want to go that way. That's just going to take you back. But you need to go up here first, get around Tiny, then avoid all of these nitro crates, and there's a lot of them. Look at all of these. Somebody at Traveller's Tales really like nitro crates, because there's so many in this level. Like Crash 3, only half of the levels in the entire game have nitro crates. They're in most of Crash 2's levels, but not all of them. But they are in every single non-flying level in this game. I think the only levels they're not in are the flying levels. That Sinking Feeling, Tornado Alley, and Crash Droids. I think they are in every other level of the game. So, and in some levels in large quantities, as we've seen here. Oh no, it's Dingo Dial. Oh no, it's Entropy, ever so occasionally shooting one projectile at the exact same location. And down I go. Wait, which bits? Why is the death plane down there? Yeah, we don't need to see all of that again. No, but this part's a bit of a maze, but you can use it. Oh, Dingo Dial, get over here so fast. Follow the Wumpa Fruit, because there's two sets of Wumpa Fruit that were back there, because either way gets you to the same location. But follow the Wumpa Fruit, you'll be fine. And Entropy's here as well, but that's not the confusing part. The confusing part is that Dingo Dial is there. And additionally, Dingo Dial is also over here. How is he doing that? There's multiple Dingo Dials. Cortex has also been cloning, apparently. I'll bet if you're at a certain point, you could probably hit both Dingo Dials' projectiles. Hey, hello, Bamboozled. Oh, Mr. Crate. Yeah, it's like Bamboozled again. Why does the castle even have all of this? Did they do this for fun back in medieval times? They knew what a hamster was back then. No, they all wanted to ride in a hamster ball. Oh, you gotta go around there to break those last crates, get the nitro switch crate, and then that gets you the gem. There we go. I don't know if it's possible to miss that thing. I imagine it is. Only if you're going slowly and deliberately trying to maneuver your way around it, I would imagine. Other than that, I'm sure you'll be fine. Yeah, just a level that's never really clicked with me, and I don't know why. I think I enjoy every atmosphere level more than that one, even though the next one is barely a level at all. I don't know. It's just never really clicked with me. Cortex Vortex, with the worst looking V in existence. We're only now acknowledging that. I know it was there for Droid Void as well, but I'm only now acknowledging how weird that V looks.
Crash, you've been a naughty boy. But now that's going to end.
No it won't. Yeah, it looks like a combination of an L and a U, but it doesn't look like a V. Because like, as a kid, I didn't even realise that the thing said save game. I don't know why I thought it said sell game. Don't ask. I don't know why I thought it said that. It doesn't look like an L either, but I don't know. Even though the main TV screen that you got to stand in front of clearly says load save on it. There it's got a normal V. Whoops. I have left in a few embarrassing deaths here. Okay, Cortex Vortex, which I thought we destroyed in the good ending of Crash 2. And Crash 3 acknowledges the good ending of Crash 2. So, whoop. See, Crash, see what happens when you swing your arms back when you land? Anyway, this is also reminiscent of Crash 2. Got these electric barriers here, similar to the chase levels in Crash 2. Yeah, I thought I destroyed the Cortex Vortex. Is this a different one? I have no idea where I am. It's not quite... It's got slightly different, like... Well, I don't know. They all had, like, this factory setting for the final stage of each warp chamber. This one kind of is, but I don't know, it looks a little bit different compared to the others. The others all kind of had the same aesthetics, but like one would be underwater, beginning with a submarine. One started with a minecart. One started with a cocktail pack around a load of lava. And then Wuthering Heights looks a little bit different, but was still kind of similar in many ways. This one looks completely different. Like, it doesn't reuse any of the assets from the previous 4. But I guess you could still say it's the factory level, just not quite to the same extent. And then the final chamber doesn't have anything like this. Gotta watch out for these things because where the sparks are all coming off of it, that also has a hitbox. Like, the hitbox is like 2 or 3 times the size of the actual bit of electricity. But again, what is all of this? What is this chamber and the next chamber? What are they supposed to be when we've already supposedly sealed the elementals away? That didn't destroy that other bouncy box, by the way. Make sure you go back and get it if you haven't destroyed it already. It's like the first 2 levels... Volcanic Eruption, I get Rocco out of that. Gold Rush, digging in a load of tunnels, also Rocco. Medieval Madness, I guess could be Pyro. Maybe, it's a bit difficult to tell. And Electricity, for some reason, seems to be the air thing, as we'll see in the final boss. So I guess this is the low stage, and then Great Balls of Fire is Pyro. You think Great Balls of Fire would have replaced Tsunami, would be where Tsunami is, but no. For these, the electric generating machine there, whatever you call it, it does get in the way of your bazooka. Ow. Anyway, got this thing. I know I say the word anyway too many times. They want you to tiptoe over it, but I always do this. I have never done that. Just do it like that. I dread to think how long it takes to tiptoe along all of that. It's the only time they want you to use the tiptoe outside of a bonus room. I mean, it's a gem path, so it's still a bonus thing technically, but outside of your standard bonus room, it's the only time they ever want you to use it outside a bonus room. I recommend just using a bazooka for these guys. But if you're really far away, the thing doesn't turn green or beep, but it is still possible to shoot them. Like that, even though the thing wasn't green. Anyway, I miss this guy, but we don't need to worry about him. Another letter N. It's all over the place here. Cortex seems to really like his first name, despite it rarely ever being said. I think he's only ever said his first name in It's About Time. I don't think he ever said it in Clash of the Titans or Mind of Amusement. But this was the first game in which it was ever said out loud. Because Coco does say, looks like Neo's using them to make the tornadoes. Back in Tornado Alley, and it's weird. It's the only time it's ever done. The only time it's ever said. She doesn't call him Cortex for that one. Also, that green gem path. We got the green gem way back in the first chamber. We're only now getting the green gem platform. Even though it could be, even though Wizards and Lizards could be the first level in the game, it could be the first gem you get in the game. We're only now on that platform, but this game doesn't have a level that requires all of the coloured gems. All you need is the green one for this level. It isn't like Spaced Out, it isn't like Bug Light, where you need to have all of the coloured gems to access the final pathway. There's never anything like that in this game. Ow. And there we go. Got our final crystal. And, well, not our final gem. We got plenty more of them to collect. That is Cortex Vortex. And with that, that is the main 25 levels done and over with, which means it's time for the final boss of the game. And if you ever needed a better example of, a better hint of what the developers were facing, just look at the name of the level. The final boss level is called Crunch Time. It could just be a pun on lunchtime, or it's what the developers had to face while making the game.
Congratulations, Crash. You should be proud of yourself. Not only have you collected all the crystals in record time, but you also defeated the elementals. Let Crunch and me be the first ones to congratulate you.
By pummeling your sad Bandicoot frame into a pulp. Come and get it.
Alrighty then. Final boss in the game, and despite all of Crunch's threats right there, he doesn't actually engage us man to man, Bandicoot to Bandicoot. You'd think that all he says is that I could beat Crash with my metal arm tied behind my back. He stood right there, but he never faces off against us. Instead, he hits these switches, which somehow summons the elementals again. These elementals I thought we sealed away. But with what Uka Uka tells us about the gems after this fight, maybe that's the excuse. But for no reason at all, he goes over and punches Cortex, who very slowly turns around to look at him. And he just sits there, dizzy. You can attack Cortex in any way you like. I don't know why Crunch does that. Isn't Cortex controlling Crunch? So why? I assume that's what that control panel is there for. So I don't know why he does it. You need to hit Crunch with your bazooka. And then each switch he'll jump onto will activate another elemental. Rocco, it sends down these fiery rocks. They do for the most part follow you, but you will get these occasional rocks that will fall in any random spot to get in your way. Pyro, he activates these flames on the floor. I never gets the idea to activate all four of them at once. Wawa, he sends out these ice balls. They don't hurt you, but they will freeze you in place. So you could get lucky there, and the flame won't be there. But that's unlikely, but if it's Rocco, it will land on you. So it may as well be instant death if you do get caught by one of them. So I think even the first one won't disappear in time. And for Lolo, it activates these electrical things, which I recommend standing in the middle of because I find it quite hard to avoid them. Unfortunately, I do end up in just about the wrong place. We are going to have to watch through all of this twice. Just wait for these things to get out of the way. Why does it create snow? I thought Lolo was the one that could create snow. I mean, snow is water, but still. Yeah, unfortunately because of that flame, ended up in the wrong place. And I'm too nervous around these electrical gates, so... Just missed him. Oh! That's a troll, we know that, Crunch. So we gotta go and do all of this again. And this last one does take a bit, but hey, you get to still listen to the music. And I love that part where it starts going da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. That part's awesome. But then again, Wrath of Cortex, awesome music overall. Yeah, Rocco is definitely the one that gets used the most here. Which is not surprising, he is the first one to get used. And there we go. You can shoot him in the crotch, but it won't do anything. One last hit on Cortex. Uka Uka is very slow to pick him back up again. But look, Cortex doesn't do anything. What is the point of that? Why does it do that? And what's weird, and we've got the speed shoes, what's weird is that Crunch, you don't see him in this cutscene, but in the final cutscene, he is lying on the floor behind Cortex, but he attacks Cortex first, so when does that happen? How does that happen if he's clearly still standing up? I don't get it.
Can't you ever let me win? What do you want from me, you cretin?
Cortex! You realize that Crash may have collected all the crystals, but he doesn't have the gems. With the gems, we can resurrect the masks one last time and destroy that Bandicoot once and for all.
Indeedy. But in order to get all of the gems, we need to collect most of the relics. There's 30 in the game, you only need 25. But we're obviously going to go after all 30. I have no idea what these credits are supposed to be. I think they still play after you've beaten the final boss again. If not, well, we've skipped the credits. All it is a random dance sequence. But yeah, so we can now access the bonus levels. Even though in Crash 3 you can access them just by getting 5 of the relics, here you can't do that until you've beaten Crunch time first time round. But each one will require an additional 5 relics. So one will need 5 relics, and the last one will need 25. But unlike Crash 3, I can actually get all of the Platinum Relics in this game. Even though I have now done that for the Insane Trilogy. But I can actually do that quite easily here, so that's what I'm going to do. I never showcased getting all of the relics in Crash 3 for the Insane Trilogy, but I'm going to do it here, and they're going to be all Platinums. So that's what we're going to be doing next time. So I will see you guys